So, who in the fuck is Joshua Bruns and Kevin Cover? Who are these people? Who in the fuck is Joshua Bruns and Kevin Cover? Kevin Cover is running for city council in Pueblo, the city of Pueblo, because we got a county and city government. So, Kevin Cover is running for city council, but there's no evidence, there's nothing online about him. You can't find anything. So, is he anonymous? Is he the shadow? He lives amongst the shadows. I don't know. I don't know who the fuck Kevin Cover is or Joshua Bruns. Joshua Bruns is running against Ed Brown for District 3. And the way I feel about that race is I don't know who Joshua Bruns is. If he's somewhat decent and likable and hopefully progressive, then he's got, hands down, he's got my support. He would have my endorsement, whatever that's worth. But since I don't know who Joshua Bruns is, now I have Ed Brown or Mr. Anonymous. And in a way, I guess, since I don't know who it is, it's kind of a none of the above approach, but I want to vote for the person. So I'm not going to just vote against Ed Brown for this mysterious Joshua Bruns. And since they don't have Facebook, Twitter, one of my millennial friends, roommates that I had, I used to talk to, he had actually said, if you don't have Facebook, then you don't even exist. You don't really exist if you don't have a Facebook. So, I'm not for sure about that 100%. I think there's some respectable, like off-the-grid people, but there's also some, curmudgeoned people, archaic and ancient people that just are against all things computers. And then, as a politician, don't you want to talk to your people? Don't you want to talk to the constituency? Don't you want them to be able to talk to you? I mean, you're trying to, manipulate them all and try to get them all to vote for you, but you're not going to even talk to them? I mean, I guess there's President Taft, right? Taft used to have those, campaigning was beneath him, so he would just go out at the governor, the courthouse, or the Capitol building, make a speech here and there, a proclamation, but he wouldn't go town to town actually campaigning, on a wagon, just standing up on a wagon or going to bars or going to restaurants. Or he didn't believe in campaigning, right? It was beneath the dignity of the office of the president to actually go get those votes. No, that's how you're supposed to. You're supposed to go get them votes, right? So what? Well, that matters, I think. So, yeah, I want to know who the fuck Joshua Bruns is and Kevin Cover. Kevin Cover and Joshua Bruns, they have to be real people. They turned in 50 signatures. Josh Bruns turned in 50 signatures. And then 100 signatures was turned in for, Kevin Cover. So, somebody went in, with those names and with the signatures and turn them into the city clerk. So, I'm going to talk about the school board election being canceled, which happened last night. I was at the county school board meeting. And then I want to actually give an overview of the general election that Pueblo City is being confronted with. And then I want to talk a little bit of history. What happened last year? What was 2016? The election for 2016 in Pueblo and the election for 2017 are apples and oranges. One was a lot of democracy and a lot of candidates and ballot questions, 19 ballot questions. And this year it's only 4 ballot questions. And for me, it's a school board race and the city council race. District 1 and District 3, they have 3 city council people that they could choose from, whereas I have 2, but that's it, right? I got 2 elections, a school board race, a city council race, and then the 4 ballot questions compared to, so I wanted to mention the history. I wanted to mention what happened in 2016, just a general overview, but essentially Pueblo voted for Donald Trump and Pueblo voted to legalize marijuana. by overwhelming landslides, essentially making us the Napa Valley for marijuana. I think it's pretty secure, but the fact that it came so close. Pueblo tried to make marijuana illegal with 3 different ballot measures, 2 for the city and 1 for the county, and one of them come in just 2 percentage points, 1 percentage points away from passing. So that could have ended, the retail marijuana stores here in Pueblo. That would have killed it. But since the reactionaries put those ballot measures on the ballot in order to quash marijuana, but since overwhelming margins had passed it, well, then that means, it's safe. It's safe. The people 5 years ago voted for the legalization of marijuana. Then the people of Pueblo doubled down and they again voted for the legalization of marijuana. The people of Pueblo want it. They want it. So what are you going to do? Go against the people? Then you're not a politician. You're immoral because you don't know. You've been lying. If you're lying, you're telling me marijuana is what? Worse than alcohol? Liar! And you're not a good politician, right? You're not going with what the people want. That's our system. The minority get their say, the majority get their way. It's Robert Rules of Order. So last night I briefly showed up to the school board election. I was just wanting to see how they ran their, their government body. I like to actually sit in government meetings just to keep an eye on them, just to see what they're talking about, what they're doing. Sometimes it's exhausting, just listening to other people. It would be nice if I was a part of the discussion, but as a member of the public, if I don't have any business, specific business to talk to city council about. But the school board election last night was canceled. So September 5th, 2017, it was canceled about 6:30 or so. So they voted for it, and the reason why the school board voted for it, it's not a bad decision. Every incumbent in District 3, 4, and 5 for the county school board districts, for their directors, right? They call each one of these school board members directors, even though they're legislative branch. Director implies executive, but regardless, so 3 of the 5, there could have been an electoral revolution with the county, but instead of having a nice, robust conversation about what does it mean to have education, what kind of education are we going to have our children, what are we going to, the county was very backwards when it came to the consolidation question too. They voted not even to study it. They didn't even want to study. They are not conservative. They want to tax the shit out of everybody. They want to have a county tax, city tax, lots of taxes, right? Consolidation saves money. It reduces redundancies. So if you're conservative, if you're for lower taxes, most people are, right? You don't want to just, tax the shit out of everybody and get a ton of money and then just, spend it on an opera or a golden calf or a golden goose or, some sort of magician who can turn other metals into gold, alchemist, right? It's not smart to invest in alchemy, is basically what I'm saying. So District 3, 4, and 5, they turn their signatures in. The incumbent, there's Mark Emery, I want to say Debbie Houghton, maybe? I don't know. The only name that I wrote down was Jill Doolin, D-E-U-L-E-N, Jill Doolin. And that's because she wasn't in attendance. So they announced the cancellation of the election, which de facto says that they won the election, right? And this is actually smart because when you have 3 different candidates, you got 3 different candidates in 3 different districts, and they're all running non-competitive races. Mark Emery was the only one that in his district, and Jill Doolin. And Debbie Houghton, maybe, I don't know. She's got the blue eyes. She's District 5. She looks very nice. Her picture is very warm. Oh, look at her, So, they were only running by themselves. They weren't running against anybody. They were non-competitive elections, so they win anyways. So they're the only ones that turn in the signatures by the deadline, and so they win, right? So, I think that there's a failure of information dissemination, and the county, hell, the county, did you not know that there was a school board election? Every single parent in the county who did not run against us, they must love the school board, right? That either says one of 2 things. If everybody just said, all right, we'll let the incumbents, run again and we're happy with it, then that means they love the school board. Everything is running there, just tip-top shape. They're not allowed to complain. They can't complain about shit. Because if you thought that the school board wasn't operating right, you would have found somebody to run, or you would have ran against them yourself. But my guess is you didn't know about it. And the reason you didn't know about it, because you're not interested, you're not paying attention, you don't Google election, on your own accord, but also because the government and the media isn't really telling the people what the hell they needed to know. We need to know that these are the elections, these are the government seats, here's the deadline. If you plan on running for any of these positions, get in by the deadline. And so my guess is not that Pueblo County thought that these were just, they could be very, good school board members, but I do not believe that all of Pueblo County thought they were the greatest school board members ever. They have no complaints whatsoever about the school. They have no better ideas on how to make the school better. I just don't believe that. I think that it was one of ignorance, maybe laziness, and then also lack of, promotion and marketing. There's all this marketing to go buy some, fucking Budweiser and Tampax and pills, right? Zoloft or whatever. But nothing about the elections, nothing about these positions. So it was sad to hear an election be canceled, but I think that's better than offering these as choices. They were non-competitive elections. They were going to win their seats anyways. So if the school board, the county school board, went ahead and passed this on to the county, who is the centralized, they're the ones that run the elections for the city. If they would have passed it along, then this would have been an option for, out of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th districts, they would have just had one choice to choose from. So that it would have been a pointless, just an irrelevant endeavor, which could have been confusing. Like, what is this? And then why is this here? And then people would vote, feeling like they actually did something. But all these candidates really only need one vote. You'd assume they'd vote for themselves. And even if they didn't, like, they're the only ones who were nominated. So could you actually win with 0 votes? I think it's safe to assume they would vote for themselves. Therefore, they win. They don't need any other vote. They don't need an election. So the school board made the right, obvious decision. It's still sad. It's just sad that the election was canceled because nobody else turned in their 50 signatures. There's all of Pueblo County. Do you all not have 50 friends? I mean, you don't actually need your friends to just any registered voters. You could have just gone to the post office or knock on your neighbor's door. Well, maybe not your neighbors. I don't know if you get along with your neighbors, but just go to the town over, go to Vinland, go to Beulah, go to 3rd and 4th. 5th, the 5th district is all the south of Pueblo, and then the 3rd and 4th district is like the upper left, so northern west part, and then so you'd have to look at a map actually to see who is your school board director. But the county is definitely different than the city. One more redundant, stupid ass thing that we do around here: we have a school board election, a county board and a city board, and they are both over $100 million budgets. Well, I think the county has more, $130 million, and then the city has 108, or vice versa. Either way, it's over $100 million. $100 million. So it's more than 6 figures, right? That's actually 9 figures. So they got a 9-figure budget. The school board for the county and the city is actually a higher budget than the city. The city of Pueblo is televised. So the city of Pueblo is televised, and I think a lot of people pay attention to it, and it invites a lot of criticism, but it invites scrutiny, which actually has a more robust conversation. I hope the city schools and the city government has a way better conversation than what the county schools did. They had no conversation whatsoever. They said, you like what's going on? They said, yes, we absolutely love them. Just let them go ahead and keep on doing their thing. So now they get power for 4 more years. I hope that they're progressive, I just hope that they are, but there's no telling. And the city, because it's videotaped, and the county is not videotaped. The county actually meets 2 times every single week, and they have a way bigger budget too. They got a $171 million budget. The city has $82 million, so the county is actually over twice as big. The budget is over twice as big. What? You talking to me? Is that for me? It's probably a kid. You know, there's children walking by, so my neighbors like to sick their dogs on them, bark, you know, just stay out of my lawn, you kids. So, I think that that's a big, I want to see that too for myself. The county does not have videotaped elections, so we're not looking at the county and the county schools the way that the city looks at the city government and the city schools. Because both of those are televised at any moment, any time. So basically their transparency is way better. The transparency for Pueblo City and the city board. And I think that there's a blessing and a curse to that. I think you should be piping mad. You know, you should be pissed off if you're a citizen of the school board, the county school board, or a, what was the other one? The county government, right? I guess I'm a member of the county government, and I'm mad about it. I wish they had, you know, why are you not videotaping your elections? They meet 2 times every week, so that means they meet 8 times. They're getting together, they're conspiring, right? They're planning and plotting, and they're making decisions, collective decisions, based upon the county. Hopefully they're, you know, what's in the county's best interest is what's governed the 3 county commissioners. Also, only 3 county commissioners for a budget that's twice as big as Pueblo City, and we have 7 city council people, so 7 people part of the board, 7 people of the legislative branch, and they have 3 people a part of the legislative branch. And then they're actually both, I guess, executive / legislative, because there's no one ruler. All they need is 2 votes, though, to get a majority. And then if one person votes one way and then the other person votes the other way, then the third person is forced to vote. They're required to vote, so they have to make a decision. If there is a question presented to the county, they must make a decision. So I think that what that would do is, you know, it's bad for the county, for the citizens. It's good for the government. They can do as the fuck as they want without anybody noticing them. But I think that will get the city government and schools a lot of unnecessary criticism, just people just being shitty to be shitty. But it's a better look. They're more transparent. They're honest. You know, even if the water board, let's say the Pueblo City's water board televised every single one of their meetings. Even if I wouldn't go through and watch all the water board meetings, the fact that they're putting out their minutes and they're putting out the video, I feel comfortable with that. It's like, here's the business that we did with the taxpayer dime. We're not ashamed of our decision. We're not ashamed of ourselves. So due to the Sunshine Act, due to us wanting the public to know what we decided upon, here's all the information. So they're forthcoming with information, you know, here's the agenda, here's the minutes, here's the video, here's the recording, here's the written transcript. You can read and watch what we decided to do on those meetings. You know, the water board, they meet once a month. The city council, they meet twice a month. And the county meets 8 times a month. And, you know, the public is, I think the minutes are put out there and the agenda is. And I think if you put a formal request in for the county, the school, you know, board in the county, or but that could be, you know, who knows? You should have to try that. If you put a formal request in for a county government and be like, I want the videotaped recording of so-and-so, could you get it? The school board, there was cameras, and then they had a mechanism of voting on their laptops. They all had Apple laptops too. And then they had desk. They took a basketball gym and turned it into an office. I don't know if they have to set that up every time. But they had desk, and then when they voted to cancel the election, you know, they did it amongst themselves. Whereas the city council, you could see up on the big screen where everybody voted. So it's public record, it's obvious, it's online, you know, it's on the cable access TV. So lots of people could see, lots of people are paying attention. And I would think that transparency is a good virtue. That's a good thing, right? If you want me to know what the hell's going on, I like that. And it invites corruption if there isn't, because who's checking, who's watching, who's paying attention? So, you know, that's my idea of a good time, going to government meetings. Maybe you're not like me, but that's okay. So, a little sad that the election was canceled. 3 out of 5 is a majority. They could have had a revolution, but they're not going to be able to have an electoral revolution with their county schools until 4 years from now. If any of the county, you know, the parents or the adults are brave enough to actually run against these, you know, power titans. And I would also invite the people who just won their re-election, their incumbents, so they were already in there for one term, and I hope that this is just their second term, because if you start to get to third, fourth, fifth terms, President Washington had 2 terms. So if the presidency, the office of the presidency, 2 4-year terms is good enough for, old fucking George, which, he's not the greatest, but he was humble, he stepped down, right, after 2 terms, then it should be good enough for, the fucking dog catcher and, soil and water conservation district supervisors and who else ever out there. What other elected positions are out there? Just 2 terms, any more than that's career politician. If you want to, continue to like influence the board or something, then choose a successor. Choose a successor. Groom somebody. Why is there no students on the school board that affects the students? In Owen County, Kentucky, there was a school board and they had 1 position dedicated for the student, a non-voting position. But what a good introduction in the government, sit upon there, you speak for the students. When you say something, you speak for the students. All the students is, their voice is coming out of your mouth. So that's something. Ultimately, shouldn't, if we're learning to be strong, independent Americans, shouldn't we be voting, and being in democratic circles? Shouldn't we understand democracy? If we're not learning democracy in public schools, where are we learning our democracy from? So, yeah. So that's civics. I wonder if the county is teaching any civics, because it seems like the people don't know anything when it comes to civics. They didn't even want to study consolidation because they want to waste government taxpayer money. They're just like, fuck it, let's just have 2 services for everything. Same mentality of segregation, right? Well, we have to buy 2 bathrooms and 2 schools and 2, water fountains. And now there's none. Where the fuck are the bathrooms in the water fountains? I don't see any public water fountains. We used to have public, they were buying 2 of all this, and now we don't even have 1. So integration basically killed the water fountain. So 22 minutes in. Yeah, so I'll go ahead. The overview for the 2017 general election, you have the school board race. 4 people are running for the school board race. I get to pick 2. At large. So this is the entire city, no districts. Out of a field of 4, you have Dennis Mays, who has the judicial building, the Dennis Mays Judicial Building. So that's, he was a judge for like 100 years, and now he wants to be a school board member. So, the fact that they have a higher budget, the city school budget is higher than the city itself in terms of soft power, in terms of money. That means the schools are more powerful than the city government. So Dennis Mays actually, recognizes that. Dennis Mays is running against a parent. I've seen her mention that she's a mother, Dottie Hemperly Calhoun. So Dottie Hemperly Calhoun is running for school board. Dennis Mays, Kenneth O'Neill III, who's the incumbent, but he just got appointed this year, so let's give him a full term if you like him. And Taylor Voss, give him full. Vote for all these people. You can only vote for 2, but Taylor Voss, R. Kenneth O'Neill III, Dottie Hemperly Calhoun, and Dennis Mays. You get to pick 2 of those 4 when it comes to election day. Who do you like better? Who's more progressive? Who's for democracy in schools? Any of them? Do any of them care about democracy? They're all running for election, so, that's a good action. That's a good adventure in democracy, right? So, in a way, by their actions, they're showing that they like democracy. They care about democracy. So, that's the school board election for the city, District 60, right? Taylor Voss, Kenneth O'Neill, Dottie Hemperly Calhoun, and Dennis Mays. Now, for Pueblo City Council race, we have 7 choices, and we got to pick the top 2 out of 7. So, the top 2 out of 7, right? So, I wonder about I'm in favor of instant runoff voting, but I do think about the algorithm. What is that? I think that's okay, picking the top 2. So, you pick 2 candidates, and then they combine all those votes. Seems very fair. And then whoever gets, the top 2 vote totals, they win. right? So you could vote for the two winners or vote for you can't vote for somebody twice. I don't know. You just have to pick two. Pick 2 out of 7. Okay. So Charlotte Perez is one of the candidates. She is an activist. She's brought in suicide as a conversation. It's one of her biggest issues, which when you compare the suicide rates to the epidemic, so-called heroin epidemic, people have died, but it's been like less than 10. And when it comes to suicides, 8 kids under 18 years old have already killed themselves earlier this year. So what the hell is the school? Do they have counseling? Do they have good counselors there? Is it too oppressive? Is there not enough democracy in the schools? What the hell? Why are kids killing themselves? 8. And that's a shit ton. But that's when people focused on it. And actually, we only talked about a couple of them, only because like the popular ones killed themselves. The non-popular ones, they didn't even get an article. Nobody wrote about them. They killed themselves and that's it. They didn't even have a name. They never existed. And maybe that's, I don't know. They're hopeless, right? They feel like there's no hope in their life. They see no light at the end of the tunnel. And it's their only option. They have no power in their life. And so the only power that they see is suicide. So I think that's a good thing. Charlotte Perez is a citizen. Let me just actually run down who they all are. Their names, right? So Charlotte Perez, Mark Aliff, and it's Aliff, not Aleph. Aisha Jiren, Jason Muniz, Joe Latino, Dennis Flores, and Kevin Cover. Who the fuck is Kevin Cover? That could be your none of the above, vote. I'm going to put my trust in Kevin Cover. I don't know who the hell he is, but I know all the rest of them. And Kevin Cover is who's going to be my choice. That could be an option for people. You could also just not vote. Well, I guess how could you tell who the not, none of the above would be a good option for people that, don't want any of the candidates, but they do want to vote. So right now, you look like you just didn't want to vote if you don't go vote, right? If you're boycotting the election, I'm boycotting. And 50% of the people boycotted. It looks like most people are lazy and didn't pay attention and didn't give a shit, but there very well could be people who are literally boycotting. So let's review those. Dennis Flores, Joe Latino, Jason Muniz, Aisha Jiren, Mark Aliff, Charlotte Perez. Now, off the top of my head, I think Mark Aliff, Aisha Jiren, and Jason Muniz. I think those would be the 3 front runners in terms of public perception. Dennis Flores seems like a nice man. He's really old. Joe Latino, I don't know anything about Joe Latino. So, and then Charlotte Perez, she's an average citizen. She's, she understands the struggle. She understands the struggle. So I would like to think that because she understands the struggle, then she would make good decisions when she gets into city council. Though, I'll be honest, I don't know all of her policy positions. So it'd be nice to see like a 10 points. I would like to see all the candidates actually do that, have a 10-point platform. So it's also good for, your fans or your supporters. So when people say, well, why are you voting for Aisha Jiren? You're just voting for her because she's a woman who owns a marijuana business. And, you don't know anything else about her. You don't know her policies. You don't know what kind of councilwoman she's going to be. So, that could be, somebody could just vote for somebody. Just to vote for them, right? So I would like to think that you would vote for them because they have good policies, and when they get into office, you got to stand up to the city manager. You got to know what you're doing. You have to have good policies. You got to be a progressive. Not only do I want you to be, protective of the marijuana industry, but why don't you open up the floodgates? We're the Napa Valley for marijuana industry, for the marijuana industry. And then being that you're a business owner, couldn't you help yourself? Hopefully she makes decisions that's best for the city of Pueblo. And, why not give license to anybody and everybody? Why have license? I guess you want to try to get tax revenues or what have you. But she's saying that the fees and the licensing system here is going to choke off the marijuana industry when we want to expand. And we should expand since we're now the Napa Valley for the marijuana industry. Pueblo is very marijuana friendly. They tried to shut it down last year, but overwhelming numbers voted marijuana up. So there's 3 ballot initiatives. The reactionaries tried to get their way, but we said free the weed.